Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. Goldbelly ships Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garden's famous cakes. So, if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT. That's goldbelly.com, promo code GIFT.
Hi sailors, it's time for a new podcast here on explorenorth.no. I'm your host, Jon Antrup. First, a little update from my side. I have put together a trip with my boat, Njord, which is a 45 feet aluminium expedition boat, from Stavanger to the Faroes. And in between, we're going to visit Orkneys, maybe Fair Isle, and my favorite island in the North Atlantic, Shetland, and end up in the Faroes, which is a beautiful, magical island. And then the return back, same route with a different crew. It's all happening in May and June. So if you want to join me, check out my webpage, explorenorth.no. This time I'm doing one of my favorite things on the podcast, talking about environment, climate and sustainability. I came across Sailors for Sustainability, two Dutch guys who have been sailing around the world for 8 years, searching for optimistic climate stories, sustainability stories, and they found some really neat examples on their way, and they made some excellent YouTube videos to share the stories, and now they're working on their final stages of writing a book about it. It's going to come out in Dutch, but hopefully also in English. But in the meantime, you can listen to Floris and Ivar from Sailors for Sustainability and be inspired. It's time for a new podcast. I'm sitting in my boat, and how about you guys, Ivar and Floris? You're not sitting in your boat, are you?
Correct. At this very moment, we're sitting in an apartment in Amsterdam because we are writing a book about our sailing trip that has come to an end after 8 years.
Yeah, and the last time I checked, our boat is still safely moored in a marina in Amsterdam.
Okay, which marina is it in?
Sixhaven.
Ah, nice. Yeah, because I discovered you guys on I discovered you guys on the Ocean Cruising Club when you got the Sustainability Award.
That's correct. That's very recent. We just heard ourselves that we had won it's called the Environmental Award, for our efforts during our sailing trip around the world to highlight sustainable solutions. So solutions to problems that the world and societies are facing, and to which are already solutions around there, and we documented those.
Yes, and we're very pleased that the OCC recognized our efforts. We've been sailing for 8 years and sailed more than 50,000 nautical miles, and it's a perfect opportunity to let people know about our story and our learnings.
Definitely. And how? We got to start with the beginning. How did this idea come up to sail the world to search for sustainable solutions?
It's actually two parts. One part is the sailing around the world. That was always Ivar's dream. I'll let you talk about that, and then I'll chime in about the sustainability part.
Yeah, since I was a little boy, I always had this dream, one sail around the world. And I got a sailboat, but it was in a lot of need of refit. And along the way, I met Floris.
And he just convinced me that sailing was the best way to travel. I had lived in different countries. I was always interested in other cultures, but I was not a sailor. But he gifted me some sailing courses. I did some more, and I slowly warmed up to the idea of sailing around the world. But I said to Ivar, there are we can sail, yes, but I want to get more out of this, and you can learn so much from other cultures. What if we can do something about that as well? And Ivar was very much into sustainability. He was a sustainability manager at a large corporation. At the same time, Ivar was kind of a doom thinker.
Well, the more you dive into what's now dubbed the polycrisis, everything around climate breakdown, biodiversity loss, plastic in the oceans, increasing social inequality, and there's a couple of more that the more you start reading and learning about those, the more depressed you get. I was at the stage where I was constantly complaining to Floris about all the negativity and doom scrolling, and it was actually Floris who came up with the idea, how about we combine the two? How about we're going to sail and make use of the ecological benefits of moving with the sailboat, but at the same time, we're going to focus on positive initiatives that exist around the world, and hopefully we can inspire people to also contribute to positive change.
So Floris took you on a round the world trip to cheer you up.
Yeah,
more or less, and to cheer up the world as well.
Yeah,
because I said, well, if you're complaining and only reading negative news, it really depresses you, and it also stifles you and makes you think, oh, there's nothing I can do. Everything is going to end anyway. Whereas if you hear positive stories, if you read about people going against the current and actually doing something about these challenges, that can lift you up and also give you energy to contribute your part.
But how did you find the positive stories along the way?
In various ways, actually. We started just doing our own research. We went online, we watched documentaries. I remember one very early example was we saw a TV show on Samsø in your neighboring country, our common neighbor, Denmark. So we went there. And along the way, we also met a lot of people because we kept looking for these examples. We talked to people and they would give us ideas. And the more publicity we got, also through social media, people would contact us and say, oh, if you're going to that country, you must visit those people.
Yeah, it really was like a snowball rolling off a hill. It started very small when we left Amsterdam in 2016. We had a few ideas, but we had no clue about everything we would going to find and how long this journey would take. But along the way, when we just started rolling, it just grew and grew. And like Floris said, from all kinds of angles, we got ideas. Sometimes we researched them ourselves. Sometimes people send them to us. Sometimes we had help from the Dutch embassies in some country. And sometimes spontaneous. We didn't expect any, and then we would stumble upon something spontaneously. So it was really a combination of all of those.
Cool. Did you sail to the places you wanted to see, or did you sail to the places where you knew you can find the sustainable solutions?
Again, it was a combination of, we had identified some in the north of Europe. So we said, okay, let's go north first. And then we would count in the seasons, of course, as well, and the weather. So we would try to find a few and see if we could sail there. Sometimes we would have to travel overland by public transport, or if nothing else was available, by rental car or hitchhiking. And we'd let that mostly decide our destinations. And of course, if there's something very exciting to see on the way, we would stop there as well.
Cool. And we have to talk a little bit about your boat, because it's a really beautiful boat.
Oh, thanks.
Did you buy it for this purpose, or did you have it beforehand?
It was me who bought the boat in 2004. And the boat is Ellen Buchanan design. built in the Netherlands in steel in 1965. So the boat is a lot older than I am. And when I bought it in 2004, I was 30 years old and I did not have a lot of money. And despite all the experts telling me that the boat was in a terrible state, I decided to go ahead and thought optimistically that I would fix her up in 5 years or so. And that turned out to be quite optimistic. And along the way, we ended up changing a lot much more than I ever expected. But it also gave us the opportunity to think about sustainability. So we repaired an old boat, lengthening her lifespan. We put in good insulation, all kinds of equipment like energy-saving equipment, a water maker to be self-sustainable, solar panels. So it was really an opportunity to also think about sustainable aspects of sailing. And it ended up being a very long and expensive project. But the benefit is that you enjoy every piece and every job you do on the boat, you feel positive about. And you also learn about the technical side of things, like how is it all done? And that really helped us along the way when inevitably stuff started breaking down.
As it does. But you must have drawn a lot of attention when you came into port with that beautiful catch.
It was actually depended a lot on the area.
Okay.
So yes, I would say especially the designer is very well known in the British Isles. So there, some people would actually recognize the design. But for example, we were in Scandinavia in summer, and there's a lot of boats. But when we moored in a marina, immediately the neighbor came to us and said, "Oh, what a beautiful boat!" And we were the only steel boat among all the fiberglass boats. And 2 minutes later, he invited us to his home, and that's so often the boat was an icebreaker. At the same time, we sailed in a lot of areas out of season or where not many around the world sailors go to, and so we were there with three, 4 boats until we reached the Caribbean towards the end only of our trip. And we expected, again, people coming up to the boat and just having a chat about the boat and about us. And none of that happened. Everybody ignored us. We were one of 1,000 boats. And, happy hour was on more people's minds than our boat, so to say.
The effect only goes so far.
Yeah.
I have to talk a little bit about Norway, because that was one of the first countries you visited on your trip.
Indeed, one of the countries we visited twice.
Oh, you were
on our
twice?
way back as well.
You haven't released that video yet.
So sorry, what's your question?
You haven't released that video again.
Correct. Oh, no, correct. We lagged behind. Well, after we've been refitting the boat, which took us more than 10 years, we felt it was necessary to do a sea trial before we start on this great journey. And that was in 2015 in the summer. We decided to sail to Norway, to the south coast. And we loved it so much, and we met so many nice people there that we came back the next year. So we said, okay, great, we're going to start in Scandinavia, not only because of the beautiful countries and the lovely people, but also because of the leading edge that in sustainability in many areas, especially around energy, renewable energy generation and use. There's a lot to learn. So that's where we came back to Norway in 2016. And we also visited Norway last year on our way back.
Yes.
Nice. Because that was then after at the end of your trip and coming from Greenland, Iceland, that way?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Iceland,
Shetland.
Faroe, Shetland, and Farsund. Then to Farsund.
Yeah. You went to Farsund on the south tip.
That's right, which we hadn't seen. The previous trip, we'd been everywhere between Mandal and Oslo, more or less. So we had covered the south coast, and then in 2016, again that part, but we continued.
From Larvik all the way up to Bergen.
To Bergen.
Yep. And you went into Lysefjorden?
Yes, and we sailed in and we sailed out. under sail. That was beautiful.
Nice.
Often there's no wind or the wind is against you, but we were very lucky to be able to sail all the way to the end and moor the boat on the pier there and hike. And also did a stop at Fleurly at the hydro power station. The old one you can still visit. It's a museum. And then they told us about the new one, and we couldn't believe it. They said, no, it's not right next door, and we couldn't see anything. And they said, no, it's in the mountain. And that was completely new to us, that you as a government, the region, that put so much effort into maintaining that beauty of the fjord, but still generating hydropower.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about changing that now. They'll have more hydropower in Norway, but we won't get into that discussion. You visited the first car ferry driven on electricity.
Yes.
You made a video that Ampere,
yes.
Ampere.
We noticed in 2016 the amount of electric cars in Norway, and I think still Norway is world leading in the amount. And we said, okay, we're not going to focus only on the electric cars, because we also hear that they're electrifying the ferries. So we arranged to borrow an electric car and drove to the ferry to take the ferry and experience both sides.
Yeah, and in 2016, the Ampere in Norway was the world's first fully electric car ferry. So that got a lot of media attention. And now, 9 years later, it's everywhere. I mean, here in Amsterdam, all the ferries are electric now, except for one oldie that I recently got. But it's amazing how quickly this took off. But you guys pioneered it. And Ampere was a very cool project. I think it was a shipyard, a Norwegian shipyard, working together with Siemens that did all the work. So that was a really job well done.
Cool. And as you say, the world, when it comes to electric drives, has changed a lot since you started in 2016. Have you? I've talked about this thing with a few other podcasts, but electrifying the boats, the sailing boats. It was way too early when you started to do that with your boat, but have you given that some thought?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that we do, obviously, as a sailboat is sail. So we wait for wind, and that's something that really helped us along this trip where we had time. We did not have, like most people do, like a 3-week holiday where you need to go back and forth, and you're always looking at the time and the agenda, and then you end up motoring to fill in the gaps, and that's what I did for most of my life. So I felt it was such a relief. Then you could just wait for wind, and you could also wait if there's no wind. You just wait for good weather window. So you end up sailing a lot if you have the time. But of course, you do need the engine power every now and then, only to get into marinas or out of fjords or whatever. So when we had to replace the engine in 2006, the efficient diesel was the best you can get. But now these days, there are so many options around electric, hybrid, and it's only getting better. I think every year it's getting better. The technology is getting better. The storage capabilities are getting better. The prices are coming down. So you see that we are on this exponential curve of technological improvement, and I'm sure at some point will change. But at this point, we don't use the engine a lot or hardly. But it's technical still in good shape. So I think you also need to check the life cycle. How much energy does it cost to make a new engine, and does it make sense to replace it over the lifespan? And that's something that every sailor, I think, has to decide for himself.
We did visit 2 catamarans that were fully solar powered. So they had electric engines, and their roofs were all solar panels.
Yeah, in Greece, the solar wave.
Yeah, and one of them actually transited the Atlantic Ocean.
Cool.
And they don't have a lot of storage, but
battery storage.
They actually just use the sun immediately for everything on board.
Huh. Yeah, because I especially noticed when you were sailing in Patagonia, you were sailing 1,400 nautical miles, and you said you actually sailed because you used one tank or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
Our tank is 300 liters or so.
How much?
And it was mostly upwind tacking.
Yeah.
Because that's just the prevailing wind in summer, and every night you have to go in and out of a little bay to shelter. Especially in the south of Patagonia, you're not allowed to sail at night, and it's not safe because the charts are not always accurate, and so there's rocks that can damage your boat.
Yeah, uncharted. Yeah.
And so it's a lot of maneuvering in and out of little bays, but mostly then we said, we have the time. It's taken us a long time to get down here. This was a part of our dream to see Patagonia, so let's take the time. And we can say we saw every corner of it, and some of them twice, because on some days the tacking was so frustrating with the countercurrent as well, that 15 miles is, I think, a full day, and we did 15 miles in some cases. So, but it was very much worth it.
Yeah, because that area, and Norway too, is known to be engine area, as you say, with headwinds and currents and no winds and fjord sailing and all that shit. So
yes,
it's really impressive that you just tacked and tacked.
That was our mission. We said, okay, we've said this all along, so now we also, even in this difficult area, we must stick to our principles.
Yeah, well, and it took some more time. Obviously, we spent 3.5 months, I think, going from Puerto Williams to Puerto Montt, which is, as you said, a little under 1,400 miles. So that's a long time for that distance, and there were people going a lot faster. But we took the time, and it was a fantastic experience. The wildlife is still so pristine. There's so many areas that hardly changed compared to the times where Charles Darwin was there over 200 years ago. It was really fascinating to see how much beautiful nature is still left, fortunately. But at the same time, we were also saddened there by seeing melting glaciers. Not everywhere it was so visible, but you read the stats. About 30% of the Patagonian ice sheets have been disappearing over the last few decades, as measured by the satellites from the ESA. But when you actually see one glacier being retreating, and you see all the mud and the lack of ice in the fjord, we also did some drone footage there. It was really, really shocking to see how also in such remote areas the climate breakdown is becoming visible. So
the answer to the green shift in sailing is actually, surprise, surprise, to sail more.
Yes, it's a surprise because, well, it shouldn't be a surprise, but it is, because so many sailors we've met, they saw things differently. Under 4 knots, engine on. Calm day, engine on. Headwinds, engine on, because the tacking takes forever and it's so much work. Good day, but quite a lot of wind. We stay in the marina, and we said, no, we're going to sail. Okay, it's a bit rough, but we can do it. So I think it's part of, because of course in the old days it was all sail, and we've gotten more comfort. The same thing is with energy use. You can only sail and not use the engine if you don't also depend on your engine for filling your batteries.
Yep.
And that is also something we've seen. Boats are getting more and more like second homes, the same comforts as an apartment. Somebody called the catamarans condomarans, like condominium, because they have the same amenities. But of course, they then have to produce a lot of energy to keep all that going. And only if you save on, if you do not have ice makers,
air conditioning,
coffee machines, you can get by with just sailing.
Yeah, and I think there's also a mindset of like a perception of time. If you have the time, you wait for good weather, then your sailing experience become better. You save money also on fuel, and we actively tried to declutter on the boat. Like, we don't want any appliances with electrical cables. Like for example, a coffee machine with these modern little cups. You put in the cup and you have a hot coffee like at home. Do we want that? How do we get the power? No, we just make coffee the old-fashioned way, and we save a piece of equipment with a cord, and then we save energy, and then we don't need a generator, and we don't have a freezer. We decided to go for cans with lentils and beans and chickpeas to stock up below the floor for long passages. So we started to eat more vegetarian food because of our mindset on we want to reduce our energy use, we want to save money. So when you get into this, you find smart solutions that help you get less dependent on time and on the fossil fuels that you need to carry.
But you're saying you went more vegetarian. Are you very vegetarian in the first place, or just you became vegetarian? Or
I think this is one of the things that changed us. How the trip changed us. I mean, I think we were less conscious about our food. I mean, we were never really big meat eaters, but during our travels, we learned about, the benefits of eating vegetarian on a boat are plentiful. I mean, it's easier to store, it's a lot cheaper, it's also healthy. But obviously also because of all the people we met and the challenges that we learned about, the climate aspects and the animal welfare aspects, the health aspects, the land use, all the eco aspects of agriculture also made us more aware that it's much easier to grow plants in a like a food forest of agroecology system than it is to raise cattle. Cattle is extremely inefficient, both the meat and the dairy, and it costs so much land, and it's so difficult to multi-crop. That also made us more aware that it's actually one of the things that we can influence ourselves. Yes, the diet is something you choose every day.
Nice. Yeah, I have the same experience, and it's especially on long ocean trips, it's way easier, often more tastier, and you don't have to have the freezer, and as you say, way cheaper. And if you occasionally fish like you did, you got a lot of fish on the trip, didn't you?
It depended really per area.
Yes, the Mediterranean not so much.
Yeah, but no. I read in the pilot that even the Romans complained about not a lot of fish in the Mediterranean.
But I remember because you mentioned the Lucipara, as we were exiting, and you go over a little sill right there. One mackerel after 6 on the line, throw back the line in, another 6.
Yeah, we had a lot of mackerel sellers back in the way.
So yes, and then sometimes the oceans were sometimes difficult because of seagrass. So we are kind of lazy, so we just throw a line behind us and we don't look after it. But then you think you have something, but it's just seaweed. And you do that for an hour, cleaning off the seaweed, and at some point you give up. Or you get competition. You catch something, and before you actually get it on board, another big fish has taken it.
Yeah,
that happened to us a few times.
Yeah, I remember.
Nice. You were talking about power consumption. How did you charge the batteries? Obviously solar, I saw that.
Yes, we have 3 solar panels, and we had a wind generator on our mizzen mast.
Right. And that was sufficient?
Most of the time that was sufficient. The hardest were cloudy days with wind from behind.
Yep.
Because then the solar panels don't do anything, and you're sailing, but you're taking away all the wind power from the wind turbine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think normally with the combination of wind and solar, you're fine. Anchorages, there's sometimes not a lot of wind because you look for protected anchorage, but then most of the time there's plenty of sun, especially in the tropics. But outside of the tropics where it's cloudy, then it's usually more windy. So the combination worked well. And sometimes we had a lot of excess energy, both wind and sun, and then we used the electricity that did not fit into the batteries to make water. We have a quite efficient water maker, so then we could refill the water tank. Yeah, sometimes when we had a scarcity of energy, we started to adapt our behavior, like less computer time. And when on passage, we would use the wind vane instead of the electric autopilot. We even went down to shutting off the LCD screen of the plotter because we felt like, we're on the ocean now, so there's not a lot of boats anyway. So things like that. So we started to work towards staying within our energy limit, and that was kind of a sport at some point.
Nice. How did you said Patagonia was one of your dream destinations. Did it live up to its expectations?
Very much so. Also, and what we didn't realize is really the two sides of Patagonia. The Argentinian side is very different to the Chilean side. So the Chilean side gets all the moist from all the weather systems hitting the Andes on that side and emptying all the rain and snow and hail. So the Argentinian side is very dry with very little places to shelter. So it was actually more challenging to get south on the Argentinian side and not get hit by a depression coming from below. But at the same time, stunning. I actually enjoyed those very barren landscapes as well. And the sea life was amazing because there are not many people living there and not many fishing boats that are active. Mm-hmm. So it's very pristine. Staten Island was sort of the border between the two areas, and uninhabited. Still looks like when it was given the name Staten Island in the 1600s, and just like you're in the Lord of the Rings kind of setting. What was a bit disappointing was the city of Ushuaia in the very south, the most southern city in the world, which in our heads was this fairy tale village, pioneer village, but in reality was more like a concrete jungle where a lot of places had been built very fast with concrete or with what's it called? This easy building material, and they just cut down trees illegally, and you saw the city sprawling, and that was quite shocking. Fortunately, we found a very nice building there as well, which is called an earthship, and that was built to show that actually you can build with local, recycled, natural materials and be self-sustaining. So you don't need any extra energy just from what the house with solar panels and water collection can generate itself. And that was beautiful. We said, if that exists here in these very barren conditions, it can work anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that was truly inspiring. And on the Chilean side, like we already discussed, the leg from Puerto Williams, which is in the very south of Chile, to Puerto Montt, which is where the road ends, basically coming from the north of Chile. That was a stretch of 1,400 miles where we would have to sail through the channels. But the channels were protected from the Pacific Ocean by many islands, so it was much more sheltered. But it was also difficult to navigate because you have uncharted rocks. During the day, you can see kelp plants growing, so you need to avoid those. But during night, you can't see that. So that's why you typically don't sail there during the night, which means you have to find a bay to anchor every night. And that makes it quite tiresome.
When you were in Ushuaia and met up with all the other boats, and most of them are going to Antarctica, did you feel the pull from the south? I know you didn't have the necessary paperwork, but yep.
Correct. That's a good point. So the decision was made for us because we didn't have, we couldn't even get, as a Dutch flagged vessel, it's very difficult to get the right paperwork from the Dutch government, because the Dutch government wants you to have an insurance, including all the damage you can cause if you lose the boat there. And no insurance company in the Netherlands will give you that insurance.
Oh, right.
So it was easy. Also, we said it would probably entail a lot of motoring hours. We have friends who were there and they motored everything, because in the very south there is no wind.
Well, there can be a lot of wind.
Or you shelter on the day.
You typically shelter, yeah.
So we said, and then we figured, no, there's plenty to see also in Patagonia.
Yeah. Cool.
So and then the other option would have been to take a cruise boat down.
And that's not an option, is it?
And that we didn't see as an option either.
No, we watched some photos from friends who were there, and we didn't feel sad, because there was so much other great adventures in Patagonia. We sailed to many glaciers. We did a lot of hikes, and we also visited national parks that were partially donated to the Chilean National Park Service by the Tompkins Foundation, and that's also a remarkable story where rich folks that sold their shares in Esprit. The North Face, yeah.
North Face,
a couple of Americans, they founded the Tompkins Foundation, and they because they loved nature so much, they started to invest in nature with the long-term goal to protect it, and that I felt that's a great way of using your money. If you have a lot of money and you wonder what shall I do with it, well, look at them. It's like a great example.
Yeah, it would be nice if more rich people could do that. Doesn't seem like this at this time of. Yeah. I usually like to talk mostly about cold areas, but I watch your videos from New Zealand, which I found really fascinating, and I always wanted to go there. How did you find it?
We found it a wonderful, wonderful country from various perspectives. So one was the people. We're very friendly. And the sailing was amazing too. So we arrived in the very north and found a subtropical climate with beautiful bays and beaches and a lot of space still. We got stuck there because all the other countries were still closed due to COVID. So we used the time to actually sail all around New Zealand to the very, very south. So we got to see the variety of the country. From a sailing perspective, it was quite challenging at times. We went from the north, we went over the north tip, and then in 3 days down to the South Island. Cook Strait we went through, that was quite windy and lots of current. And then all the way to the south, we got to colder areas again. There's another island south of the South Island, which is called Stewart Island, that only has a few thousand people, but it's mostly just nature.
One big nature reserve, and it's a fascinating place where, especially in the south of Stewart Island, you get into, I think, the 45th, 46th latitude. So you also get this kind of Southern Ocean unprotected with lots of winds, and you see the vegetation starts to adapt from large trees to very low shrubs, and there's lots of rain, lots of wildlife. Fascinating place. We had to tie up the boat there at some point with the long lines we still got from Patagonia, just to tie the boat up in a small bay to rocks and trees, just to make sure we were safe. So we had a Patagonia feeling at some point there too.
And we had a Norwegian feeling as well, because the southwest of the South Island is called Fjordland.
Yep.
And it is a bit like Norway with the fjords. It was summer, so it was great weather, but it has the same challenges where it's actually difficult to sail because in the fjords the wind dies down.
Yep.
Yeah, what I especially liked is this idea that with a sailboat you really can explore those fjords. Like if you If you have a holiday in New Zealand for a couple of weeks, you rent a camper van or a car, you drive down to the Fjordland, then the road basically ends at a place called Milford Sound, and you can do a nice hike and a ferry tour with the rest of the tourists, and that's it. But there's actually, 15 of those what they call sounds or fjords, and it's like a magnificent place with so much to see and explore. You can only do that by boat, basically. And if you're on your own boat, you feel very privileged, being able to do that.
Cool. Did you meet many other boats down there in New Zealand?
Down there,
a handful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Most people stay in the north where it's nice, warm, and sunny. So you typically meet the somewhat more let's say seasoned sailors with the mindset of we're just curious to see what's there, and we don't mind the bad weather sometimes.
Did you find some good sustainable solutions that made you optimistic in New Zealand?
A lot. It's the country where we had the most sustainable solutions. Some very practical ones, like using seaweed as a biostimulant for agriculture that can replace all the synthetic fertilizers.
Yeah,
that was very...
we did items from like urban gardening to regenerative farming,
tiny houses,
and food rescue, like initiatives in some cities that how to avoid all the food waste in the supply chain. But one of the most remarkable stories was basically based on the Maori worldview, like the indigenous New Zealand people, the Polynesian descended Maoris.
It's really their perspective on our place as humans on Earth and our relation to nature. They say we cannot take nature and appropriate it. We belong to it. We are part of nature, and we have a role as humans to take care of it and to be its guardian for future generations. And so if you come from that perspective, you treat nature so differently. We are used to exploiting nature for our own benefit, and also to appropriate it and say, this is mine and I can do whatever I want with it. And whereas they say, hold on, no, belongs to everybody, or actually we belong to it and we have to take care of it. If we take down a tree, we do it only if it's needed, and we don't take too many. It has to be able to regrow. So they have magnificent trees. They're called kauri trees, which they used they were taboo to be cut down unless it was necessary to build one of those boats. And they had a whole ceremony to do that. And then the British came, and within 100 years, 98% of the trees were gone. Yeah. And it's still, of course, that struggle between those two worldviews. And so what they've done in New Zealand is they've recognized this Maori worldview in some way in saying, for example, a river, the Whanganui River, is very important to the people, the Maori tribes that live around that river. And they've said in law now, okay, this river has legal rights. It has legal personality like a company or like a person. And a committee composed of Maori representatives and government representatives, they are the voice of this river, more or less, and they have to be consulted in anything that concerns the river. And the same is true for a big forest and for a mountain. So in a way, they've tried to incorporate this worldview into law in New Zealand, and you see that now in different parts of the world also emerging. In the Netherlands, there's talk of giving rights to the Wadden Sea, which is in the north of our country, sheltered by a few islands. It's a very unique ecosystem, it's very good for birds and for sea life. So they've said maybe we should also give rights to that area so it can be defended in court if necessary.
Yeah, there are some positive signs, but you really think that we can reintroduce the mindset of the Maoris? Because some would call that extremist, and I don't know why, but to actually live on this planet in a sustainable way, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
I think to the people who think the Maori view is extremist, I would argue the opposite. I think our current view is extremist. Once you realize, based on all the scientific evidence, that we are on in an existential threat situation, I think it's very clear that the Earth can take care of itself. And if we don't change course and we don't change our ways, then, we humans will be wiped out. So it's really extremist to think that we can continue business as usual. And I think, and not just the Maori, but also other indigenous peoples we met, like the Aboriginals in Australia, and also the Zulu in South Africa, and the Mi'kmaq in Canada. Like all these indigenous cultures that are thousands of years old, they all came to the same spiritual and worldview that we humans, we should take care of nature. And there's plenty of evidence that they reached that same conclusion independent from each other, because they knew that was the only way to survive. That was the only way to survive on a small island. That was the only way to survive in a larger area. And I think we, modern human globalized society, can take stock and learn from that insight, because we have only one planet. We have nowhere else to go. So we need to make it work here. And I think we can learn a lot from the indigenous worldview.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we have to fully adopt it. That's difficult. But we can use their thinking in how we treat nature. And 300 years ago, the Western culture was also much more connected to nature. So it's in a sort of our collective memory how we can treat the earth and how we should treat it.
Yep. No, we have the same in Norway. The Sami people, they came from the same indigenous background, mindset.
Yes.
But yeah.
But I think that the challenge is how to combine those worldviews, how to seriously learn from the indigenous worldviews, and how to use our modern technological, smart, innovative minds to combine things. And that's where we ended up with our examples. We've now listed 67 different examples. There's many more. I mean, we obviously never claim to be complete. There's so much other things going on, and constantly new people doing new things. But I think there's a couple of things that we need to work with. I think it's about less and it's about better. And I think accumulating stuff, there's always someone with more stuff or a bigger house or bigger car. I think that's a road to nowhere. I think it's important that you take what you need and not more. And then think about owning less, sharing more. Think about tiny houses, boats. 99% of yachts in marinas are never used. If you look at the hours in the year, and that's a terrible waste. I mean, obviously we like sailing and we have a boat, but we never do it because we don't have time, because we need to work to earn money for the boat. So that's a bit silly. Why don't we start sharing more? And it's things like that really help to dematerialize and de-energize the economy. And then the stuff we do need, we can do it better. We can generate energy renewably. We can farm together with nature, and we can take care of our buildings and our transport, etc., in a much smarter way. So I think it's a combination of those things. It's really about less and it's about better.
Is that the title of your new book?
The title of the book that will be published at the end of April is Overstag.
Yeah, that's the Dutch version.
Yeah, the Dutch term overstag means to tack, to change course.
Yeah.
And we have a saying in Dutch, to tack, to go overstag gaan, is also used in a figurative way, meaning you change your opinion and you change course what you were doing.
Yeah. Nice.
And the idea is that we need to change course collectively and sail towards a sustainable future. And we know what to do. The pieces of the puzzle are there. We've seen them, we've documented them, but we need to apply them on a big scale.
Yeah, and I think one important thing to realize, because we get now, since we are back in the Netherlands, we get a lot of people saying, well, isn't it too late to save the climate? Or how can we do this with all the politicians not leading, to put it mildly? And then I think, no, it's never too late to change course. It's like walking into a minefield. You know, if you go on, it's going to be difficult, but you can always walk back. And so it's never too late. And then there's this idea of leaders are not leading. No, but big societal changes were always coming from society. Think about the abolition of slavery. That was a huge undertaking over multi-decades by different groups working together. And in the end, we were able to beat the vested interests of the plantation owners and the economical elite by ethical and moral reasons. And I think we have similar challenges now if you look at the invested capital and the stranded assets discussion in the fossil fuel industry. So we have to come together as people. Individual behavior is easy, but only can get you so far. We need to work together, form coalitions, and make the necessary changes. And in the end, to save ourselves and the future of our children.
I read somewhere yesterday that it only takes 3% of a given population to make major changes, shifts.
Yeah, isn't that hope?
So it is hope, maybe.
Yes, and we've seen so many people working towards the greater good.
Yep.
From the very start in Germany, our first project, to our last, and it's usually a challenge, but they keep on going, and they get more and more people involved, and we say, okay, we are also a drop maybe, but it takes a lot of drops, and if you a drop on many drops on a hot plate do lower the temperature of that plate. And the more people hear about what can happen, what needs to happen, what's already happening, the more people, we are convinced, will change direction.
So you said the book was going to come out in Dutch, but it also sounded like maybe in English?
We hope so.
Yeah, we haven't found an English publisher yet, but we hope when we get the Dutch one out that interest will follow.
Cool. And the book will be about your trip and then sustainability, or how have you written
both.
It? Both? Yeah.
It's about our past years sailing and looking for documenting sustainable solutions.
Yeah, and there's also a third storyline, and that's about us. Like why are we doing this, and how are we changed by the journey and what we encounter.
Nice. But first of all, you definitely should get an English publisher.
Yes.
We would love to do that.
That's our next goal. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. I know a few. You can send it to them.
Thank you.
But we started with my halfway joke about Ivar being depressed. Have you become a more positive? you seem like a positive guy, Ivar, but have your mind lightened after 8 years of sailing and looking at the possible ways to change the future for our planet?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I learned so much. I mean, I never realized how much there is to do, and that's quite easy to do if you think about it. It's about different ways of farming. To dive into that a little bit, what's now called the agroecology movement, everything from organic to regenerative, it basically all comes down to not using a monoculture with artificial synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, but it's about combining different plants and crops and use natural ways of enriching the soil. And there are so many movements and different approaches, and there's so much possibility there. And then you realize, okay, if I want to support that, then I also need to buy from farmers or stores that actually have the food produced in a different way. Because it is possible, and there's so many benefits for the soil and for the people who work there and for the industry. But the change needs to come from somewhere, and this is one of the issues where I became much more positive about my own influence on the system and my knowledge of it.
Yeah, in so many ways, we often say don't underestimate your own power, because you are so much more than a person. You're a consumer, so you can make choices every day, what you consume, how much you consume, where you buy it from, so who you support with your money. But the same goes, where do you bank? Where, is that a bank that also has sustainability in its guidelines?
Yeah, or do you use a local money system?
You're also a neighbor. So with your behavior, you're influencing your neighbors as well. They see what's happening. You're a parent or a child. You are an employer or an employee, and with what you do, you set an example. You are a voter, of course. So with your vote, you can do things, and you are maybe a member of a neighborhood community where you can show an example, or a cooperative, and in everything you do, you have power, and you can lead by example. You can inspire others.
Cool. And since you are sailors for sustainability, how can sailors make a difference, except from sail more, of course?
That's number one. And I think that's a big issue already. Yeah. Sail more. Also look at your energy use.
Yeah. Well, and I think of if you don't sail often, really consider sharing a boat with friends or family, or rent a boat. It's really about, the first step is really about less. Do I really need to own a boat with all the costs and hassle that come with it? That's a really big thing. And then, of course, if you are on the water, try to use the power of the wind. An important one is not use any poisonous chemicals. Like the average toilet cleaner is terrible for the marine life. So use biodegradable stuff. There's plenty of brands in all the countries.
For everything on your boat.
Yeah, and remember,
soap,
toothpaste, everything that you use from the boat ends up in the water. So think about the biodegradability of that.
Then whatever you bring onto the boat, it probably needs to get off again. So the food you buy, does it need to be in packaging? So buy packaging-free food, buy local food from local small producers that's hopefully organic as well. So you don't, that you can make
at least the money stays in the local economy.
What waste you do have on board, recycle it. If you choose a marina that also has recycling and like there's blue flags, or they have certifications for also adhering to environmental guidelines.
Yeah, and another thing we learned is that we used an inflatable kayak. We ended up paddling a lot, and we had a dinghy with electric outboard, but we only used it every now and then when we had guests or lots of stuff. But the inflatable kayak was so easy to handle. Never problem at the dinghy dock, where you can lift it out of the water very easily. It saves a lot of money. We saw so many big dinghies with 20-30 horsepower engines. But why the hurry? We have all the time.
Another one is anchoring. When you anchor, be very mindful of where you're anchoring. If it's sand, if there's coral around, you might need to lift your chain with a fender a little bit, and be very mindful of the local wildlife. Don't approach it. Leave it at peace. Observe. And another one, is the anti-fouling you use. That of course releases still in many countries it's copper into the water, whereas there are alternatives nowadays that are a bit less environmentally damaging.
Yep. Very good. And now you're finishing up the book, and then another 8-year trip?
No plans at this point. Now the book will be published end of April. Then we will do different book tours and presentations here in the Netherlands. hopefully we get an English version published, so we can continue doing that in English-speaking countries, or maybe we come to Norway as well. We'd love to. So we don't have firm plans. We just take it as it goes. We will have the boat. The boat needs some maintenance. We're gonna find a new purpose for the boat. Maybe doing local tours. We have not made plans to do another long journey. We are now very pleased to be back. We reunited with family and friends for the time being.
Nice. And if or when you get an English publisher, we will definitely make a new podcast.
And we look forward to it.
Yeah, it will be great.
Yeah. And thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences. It's really
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks so much, Jon.
Thank you. Hi again, sailors, and thank you for listening to this podcast. You will find more podcasts on explorenord.no, both in Norwegian and in English. If you want to know more about sailing in cold waters, I can highly recommend, without blushing, the book I wrote together with Bob Shepton. It's called, surprise, surprise, High Latitude Sailing, Self-Sufficient Sailing Techniques for Cold Waters and Winter Seasons. It covers pretty much everything you need to know to get out sailing the whole year round and sailing to remote places in the world. You'll find it, you can buy the book on explorenord.no, on Amazon, or have your bookstore order it. If you're interested in Svalbard, I also wrote Sail to Svalbard. You can buy them at the same places. So please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions at all. You'll find me on explorenord.no. In the meantime, go out sailing.